Good evening, everybody. It is December 12th. We are, of course, in the midst of the holiday season, so I see a little lighter attendance tonight. So I know a lot of people busy with all the things that we're doing, whether we're already starting to celebrate or about to celebrate. So make sure we got everybody in here. Looks like we've got about 18 or so participants tonight. So great. Without further ado, we will jump in and review our agenda. So let me go ahead and pull that up. So I'll call us to order here at 6:35. And I know AJ will be joining us shortly, so I'll make a note. So we typically have our time for public comments, which we will of course do. We also have an opportunity to introduce a potential board member candidate who's online with us. So we will make sure to do that as part of the public comment period. Last month we met on November 14th, so we'll make sure to cover off on those minutes. And if we want to go ahead and do our board vote up front, I know we were going to talk about the officer position of treasurer and then make a vote to adjust that position. So we can go ahead and do that. Heather has her update. Thank you, Heather. You were adding a lot of documents in to board docs for us to see. And thank you for just, adding all of that and organizing us so we can review it all in advance. So I know we'll have some general operational updates, talking a little bit about the building, school goals, big rocks, all of those things will be part of that. And then I know we are going to go into the finance update, looking at the format and the details and some of that data that was shared. And then PTO, if Sarah is on with us tonight. I don't know if I see her yet, but maybe she'll be on a little bit later. And then we will head over to committee updates. And I know we've had a lot of action on the fundraising side with annual giving, so I'm sure we can touch on that. And then just checking on our upcoming meetings after the holidays, since we did talk about adding a few things for candidate interviews and then adjusting the January meeting. So just checking back in on that and then wrapping up. Anything else? Does it sound okay? Awesome. All right, we will jump right in and we are going to head into our public comment period. So we have mostly people that probably are familiar with public comment, but for everyone's benefit, just a friendly reminder how it works. We have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes. For anyone who is online to share a public comment. If you do have something you'd like to share, you can certainly add that note into the chat, and that'll let us know that you have something you would like to share. So let's do that first, and then we will finish our public comment with our introduction that we have to do. So any public comment in general first. Okay. All right, last call for public comments. We have a quiet group tonight. Okay, then I'm going to introduce one of our interested candidates for the board. Hi, I see you on, Shama. How are you? I'm going to go ahead and introduce yourself to the group. So we got connected on LinkedIn and we had a quick conversation, and I believe that you're going to connect with Stacy soon. So I just would love to know just a quick intro and why are you interested?
Well, hello, I'm Dr. Shama Grimmage. So lovely to meet all of you. Just a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in Orlando, Florida, and left to go to college. I have my bachelor's in criminal justice, my master's in elementary education, and then I went on to get a doctorate in higher ed leadership and organizational leadership. And what piqued my interest here is I've always had a passion for education and hence the master's in elementary education. So, but I've always been interested in different ways in which I can give back. And serving on a board such as this one definitely piqued my interest. So that is why I reached out. And so far, so good. So, welcome, I mean, not welcome, but hello.
Hello, I think you had a chance to attend the grant.
Yep, she's been, yeah, a couple meetings.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
Okay, great. Already getting involved. Would love to see that. Okay. Awesome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to officially meet you with the
Nice
whole team here. Okay. Then I think we will close out our public comment period. And we will head on over to typically our fairly easy vote, which is the previous month's minutes. So November 14th, you all have them there. Anything you would add, edit, change? Request to be updated. Just for the benefit of the audience, as a friendly reminder, you can always go to Board Docs and find our agenda there, and we approve our minutes each month for the previous month. So you can always go back and look for those minutes and review them there. You can also review these recordings there. So
Looks good to me. Anybody else say anything?
No, I know I dropped off the call before the end, so until I dropped, things looked good to me, but
okay.
I wouldn't have anything.
All motion we approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Okay, so we would like to discuss our treasurer position. So would our current treasurer like to share anything as a sign off or a?
Sure, much for last month. I mean,
Yeah, you did.
It's been a good 6 years. Just changes in life stages where it is. I think it's a good time to exit. Heather's done a good job stabilizing a lot, so I think we've got transition coming in. So that's the main I would say. So I appreciate you all supporting the transition and not being like, no, you're stuck till the end. But yeah, so I think that's the key part.
And that would be you'd stick around as a member for a little bit longer.
I'll
then,
stay a little bit
so.
longer. I'd like to stay until basically through getting another board member added. So that's probably 1 or 2 more meetings,
Yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
So keeps us around the 7, allows me a little bit of feedback and thoughts on who comes
Yeah.
in, right? So,
Yeah, that's a good
yeah.
point. Absolutely. 6 incredible years. That's pretty impressive, huh?
A lot of change.
I know.
Yeah.
I updated my resume. This was actually a few years ago.
Yeah.
I put on there, it was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, the school has changed
Yeah.
financially so much. And
Yeah.
there's student counts, dollars that are involved in it.
Great.
Um, It's been a lot.
Small school to big
To have
school.
board meetings in the little chairs.
I know.
Yes.
I mean, Kristen had a PTO over there, like
Uh-huh.
squeeze in, your legs are going to sleep by the time you get to the meeting.
Yeah, those are some intense long meetings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all you've done on the board, and I know you're continuing on the board, but in your specific role,
Just
you've
a
been. How long have you been a treasurer?
I think 4 years.
4 years? Oh, yeah. Okay.
You can a little longer. Yeah, it's like 7 years with finance committee.
Yeah.
Active for a year before.
Yeah.
Came to all the meetings
It's a
before I
lot.
actually joined.
You didn't include your PTO years in that either. That's just pure
Yeah,
board.
that doesn't include the short time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a lot of years.
Thank
I
you very
keep
much.
looking at Kristen because I think you have longer consecutive. 'Cause I
Yeah.
stepped back for about 2 years. So
Yeah. But great contributions and just, great heart and great thoughts, just partnering through all the journeys, all the things that we've discussed over the years, and always a voice of reason and thought and compassion. So
The great heart, yeah, really resonates. That's what I think of Philip, and a lot of the contributions you've made have been things that come from the heart and care and concern about
Yeah.
the school and where we're going. So
Community.
appreciate it.
thank you.
That's been awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So who's sucker him to take this
So
role?
he's not
He
here
doesn't have to be the ear to be
yet.
voted in. I got the okay
He
earlier.
doesn't guess.
Also, he just called me before this and said he would be here.
Yeah, he's just driving, so he's probably maybe in a transition period,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
And Kevin, with you being out last month, I was like, isn't that automatic? Like, throwing his name in the hat?
It's like he's trying to get down.
No.
It's a good role and AJ is,
Clear as qualified.
he's here in his spirit. Yeah, no, he's on his way. He's on his way.
So we can pause and circle back if we want, or we can proceed. With the vote?
Move to appoint AJ.
Okay,
Second that motion.
okay.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. AJ will be instituted as our next board treasurer.
Alright.
Subject to his
As of-
acceptance, which we anticipate.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything we need to do pertaining to that transition? You'll
We'll
get with him.
Connect, and I told Heather today when we were talking, I'm like, oh, happy to jump on finance committee or join them in some of their meetings for as long as they want to have me. Well, maybe not that long, but at least for multiple months.
Yeah.
I still have value to add with them, so.
Yeah, and he called me, so I told him we would get together and kind of do what you and I do. We'll have the finance meeting, but then also the day of the board meeting, have a talk, so we'll schedule that as well.
Mhm.
So he was on board with that.
The two of those work well. So you've got the one with a little bit broader
Mhm.
minds talking two different subjects, but then also
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
closer connections.
Yeah.
Stay involved on it.
Sounds good. Swapping emails too, right?
That will be, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
that will be
Steven.
Steven.
If you reach out
Yeah,
to
Steven.
Steven, you
Transfer
can
it.
do
He's
your.
on here, Steven. I'm
do your-
More
do
fun
your
for you,
email. I think
Steven.
that's probably the only logistical item in terms
That'll
of
be good,
files
just don't
or,
wanna- Yeah. like,
you know,
just don't
sharing any
wanna-
files
I
or.
have a couple of meeting minutes that I need to publish to the Word. I'll get them up into Board Docs as well.
Okay.
I think I have 4. So I did, I'm like, this wasn't that hard. I really should do this more often. And then
It's so easy now. Heather does so good with it.
it's making them
Example.
look pretty in Word, but it still only takes like 15 minutes. I just.
Yeah, it's cleaning them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, good stuff. We are ready to then move along to Heather.
All right, so I did include some basic board reports, but before I get started into that, I'm gonna go ahead and let Jared and Kathy kind of share out about what's going on, the specifics inside of the building. So Jared, I see you first, so would you mind to share a little bit about what's going on at the high school?
Sure. I just have some highlights here, some things that have happened since our last board meeting. We've had several field trips. Our marine science class went to the Ponce Inlet Marine Science Center. And just based on the pictures that I saw, the kids had an amazing experience. A lot of hands-on stuff for them to do there. And the person that was kind of guiding them through the activities was fantastic. Our world religions class visited the Guangming Buddhist temple recently. That was a neat experience for those students, and kind of tied into what they were discussing in class. Some of our ELA classes, students from ELA are going to be going next week to see a production of A Christmas Carol at Orlando Shakes. So that'll be neat. I would imagine that for some of the students, it might be their first time seeing live theater. So that'll be kind of cool. AP Pre-Calc and Calculus are going to be visiting the Orlando Science Center Observatory to talk about one of the things that they're focusing on right now in those classes is the connection between astronomy and math. And so this is a way for them to kind of experience that. It's a small group, but they're going to have a good time with that experience. Athletics, our soccer team is 3-1. They're actually playing right now, so hoping for another win tonight. We play against Orlando Christian Prep tonight, so fingers crossed that comes out a victory for us. Basketball team has yet to find their first win, but they are improving every game. We lost a very close game last night against Orlando Science Charter. It was 40-38, and they scored on a last-second buzzer beater. Literally with the time expiring, they got the final shot off. So our team played really well, and we played that game at the Gym Beach Center. And that seems to be a really good venue. So we're looking into that possibly being where we host all of our home games, both for basketball and potentially for volleyball. Speaking of volleyball, two new sports that are going to be coming up in the spring that we're offering for the first time, boys volleyball and girls beach volleyball. And so sometime when we get back from winter break, we'll be adding those two sports as well. Last Thursday, we had State Attorney Andrew Bain visit the high school. He shared with us and the students about his personal journey and some of his strategies for success. Our students asked a lot of great questions just about life and the law, and a lot of questions about football. And then last thing, we have our winter dance, our disco themed winter dance that's going to be happening this Saturday. That event was planned by students and we'll even be featuring a student DJ. So that'll be cool. I know our event planning committee has worked really hard to plan and to promote this event. We're really hoping for a great turnout. So it's exciting to see this come together and the students kind of taking the reins and creating something really, really cool. So excited about all the things that are happening with us. And I'll be sure to share some additional highlights from what happens this month in the next couple of weeks in our January meeting.
And thank you, Jared, for posting the state attorney on Facebook. Hopefully we can continue to use that platform and share some of the good news that you just mentioned, like some of those athletic successes and things there. I think that's a good place for us to continue to share that with our community. So hopefully we can find maybe somebody in the athletics department who will be able to take a quick share on after their successes or just their matches, right? So thank you, Jared.
Yep.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey everyone. So we got testing progress monitoring 2 going last week. Seems to be going very smoothly, all thanks to teachers and Natalie, Stephen, and everyone involved. We had our first kindergarten field trip of the year last week, went very well. They went to the Rep, or what used to formerly be called the Orlando Rep. All very excited with the school bus, of course. Yeah, I know, it's so funny. Eileen and I prior to going to the chili cook-off winter wonderland event at high school on Friday night, stopped by the high school soccer game, and that was so much fun. And so, lovely to see so many familiar faces running around the field, including a former kindergarten student of mine now in high school. So that's so lovely. Adam. So that was really lovely. And then we went on to, I know Sarah will speak about it a little more, the chili cook-off in Winter Wonderland. We didn't stay for the movie, it was getting set up when we left, but oh my goodness, the chili and the cornbread were absolutely delicious. But the winter market, the crafts and things that the children had made were absolutely amazing. So I came away well stocked with gifts, I will say. So definitely going to hit that again next year, and just to see the pride on the children's faces. The middle schoolers were so excited with their work of the handstand, and it was just absolutely lovely. It just filled my bucket up so much on Friday. Testing continues this week. Next week is going to be quite busy, of course, with the various holiday performances. See if I can scroll the Zoom screen down. So we're going to have the community choir concert is going to be on the 19th, and I think that's at Horizon West High School. And then on the 21st, we're going to have the band and percussion ensemble concert, and that's at the IMHS cafeteria. And then in the middle of that, on Wednesday morning, we're going to have middle school work up the hands holiday themed sale. So yeah, busy run up. I shared with the staff that there was a meme about the break in between Thanksgiving, or the school days in between Thanksgiving and winter break, feeling like the last lap in Mario Karts where everything's coming at you and you're going so fast and you can't really steer. So that's kind of, we're in the thick of that right now, and that will definitely be continuing even speeding up in the next week, no doubt. So I'm asking parents to please keep a close eye on classroom calendars, Parent Square calendars, and be sure not to miss any of those great end of semester holiday events. And that's it. And thanks to the teachers for still showing up with a smile on their face, even scenario cards. Yeah.
Absolutely. I provided you all with just a little bit of an update of our big rocks. So as you can see, for MTSS, Nicole has been so gracious she's currently doing 2 roles right now, AP and MTSS, and she's doing a phenomenal job. Her and I met, we discussed kind of what they already have in place. I shared some materials with her on MTSS, and our goal is by the end of the year to have a solid system. You can see there that I would love to send her to the Solution Trees RTI training. I know, we've been talking about budget, but just experiencing that myself, the growth that I think, we could take away from that. So that's something I'm looking at for the spring.
What's the cost of doing that?
It's usually around $700 or $800 for just the training itself, and then depending where it's at.
Out of town.
Yeah, I haven't found one that's in Florida yet. But we'll look through that and see what we can. And they do offer sometimes online. It's just not the same as going. And so I really would like to look at to see if we had, a few dollars left over at the end from ESSER that from some miracle reason that we could send her to would be great. So that is something, I really want to look to do. Tier 1, as Kathy had already mentioned, and then Jared, we're completing round 2 of testing. So once all of that comes back, then we'll spend time as a staff to sit down, look at that data and determine next steps instructionally. I know student surveys were given or conducted by the mental health team for the plan, and the social workers and admin shared that data with staff. It was not through the panorama. It was just a basic survey. So we'll look at something bigger, nationally normed in the spring. So we will work with the social workers to figure out what that needs to do, what it needs to be. The website is 100% in compliance with all the state mandates. So we did submit all of that information. We did have a parent come in and take some pictures. And so I know Stephen is working to get those pictures updated on the site. And then I know we mentioned it a little bit, but our next step is promoting through social media. I had the opportunity to meet with a parent after I put out that post, about the reason why we're fundraising, those kind of things. And he's been here for a while, so he's given me a lot of insight of things that they did in the past and some of his suggestions. And so a lot of it was around that promoting piece, and he has volunteered to work with me to be able to do that, to start getting us out there and getting us promoted. Lots of other great ideas too, like talking about, I'd like to name it like donuts with the director and have sign up, kind of bring all of that stuff back now that COVID's over and then going through that. So it was really nice to meet with him, but the social media was the one that we have to ramp up. So now that we have the website, now we need to start looking at posting regularly on our Facebook page. The merge to middle school and high school. So we met with I met with Lachey, Leanna, and Jared to discuss the specifics. A parent survey was distributed, so we'll get those questions, combine those, and then start determining how we're going to share out that information with the community starting in January. But also really working with our middle school and high school staff. I want them both to feel, I know right now it's separate, so you have middle school over here and high school over there, but bringing them together that their voices are heard at both groups, and how do we merge that together and not lose the identity of the middle school, but then also keep what we've created at the high school, and what does that look like? So really working with the admin team to piece that together. My goal is still before the end of the school year to have a mock run day of middle school being over there and running through what that looks like.
So you talked about, sorry, a question about sharing updates with parents or the community by when?
I'd like to start that by like the end of January to start answering some of their questions that are the basics.
That
you
come
know,
back from the survey. that you
yes,
sent
that come
out.
back
Okay.
from the survey that came. So one of the big things was cell phones. That's something like even the staff, so I'm sure parents will too, like,
Mhm.
hey, what's the cell phone policy gonna look like? Well, it's gonna be the same, we're not.
Crocs or no Crocs.
Yeah, so
Right.
Uniform.
and then those more
Yeah.
logistical things, like we start sharing schedules, and I know Jared's been working on that, and Lachey and Leanna, but really making sure we're all on the same page as
Yeah,
staff, and
yeah.
then rolling that out to the community. And so we'll have some that are just basic, we can hand out like brochures, like here it is, and then some where we'll bring in the community and run through logistical parts of it.
And Jared has his hand up.
Yes, Jared, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to add, I've gotten 21 responses from parents, requesting questions. There were like, I think 5 slots for questions. So I've had a chance to read through a couple of them. There are some things that are coming up, fairly consistently as questions. Certain things that, were brought up as concerns previously that are being brought up again. So those are some of the things I want to make sure that I address in those either discussions or the FAQ document that gets created that kind of shares all of those, the answers to those questions. And then we've been meeting the middle school and high school team starting a couple months ago, once a month, all together as a secondary team. And so we have our next meeting tomorrow after school. Shout out to PTO for providing some refreshments for that for us. Thank you. And then our culinary class is also going to be tagging in with PTO to provide some refreshments for our teachers. So they're really excited to be able to do that. And during that meeting tomorrow, we're going to kind of start talking through and brainstorming some of the specific logistics. So like where classrooms may be, who's going to be teaching in what room, and just kind of a rough sketch of who's teaching what and where, and like what that will look like. So we've kind of done just very little of that piece. And I think it's important that just to be ready for next school year that we're starting that planning process now, because it will be upon us before we know it. And I think it helps because what I've learned about our teachers is that they are incredible planners. And so they want to know with as much advance notice as possible. So I want to honor that and kind of let them know, okay, this is the plan, tentative plan, because we know things can change. So they can start planning and thinking ahead for next year, even now. We're not exactly midway through the year, but that's where we're headed for secondary.
When does that, sorry, Brett. When does that survey close for parents? When's their last day to get that information in? They have questions.
I don't know if I gave a due date. So it's open now.
Okay.
I will probably send a follow-up.
Form out, by the way,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a survey and I'm
Oh.
like looking for, it's just these empty boxes and I was
Yeah.
like, where are the questions? And I didn't realize I was just writing questions in there. I had to go
I
back and
tried
read
to
the
give a
questions.
description, in the
Or
top of the
broken.
survey.
That should be probably a parent questionnaire, or I don't know what we would call it, but yes, we want questions
Ask
from the
us,
parents.
yeah.
Yeah, I wrestled with what to name it because I was thinking like, how do I?
Yeah.
And I had originally put something that was like really lengthy to try to explain it. And then I was like, I don't really like that. So I tried to make it really clear, like enter question 1 here, enter question 2
You're
here.
like, where are the
It was
questions?
a little confusing because it was like, yeah, it's like enter question 1. I was like, oh, did somebody not fill out the form? I was like, the blank
Sorry.
form.
So
Like,
Sorry,
that's
Brett.
good
I was like, then I was
feedback.
like, maybe
Yeah.
the form, maybe the survey already closed and I missed. I was like, it's only been
Yeah.
like 2 days. I was like, maybe I could like,
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
we'll put that back out again
Yeah.
tomorrow in our
if you
weekend
do
again.
it, just clarify, we're asking
Yeah.
you for questions and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
empty spaces there for you to ask.
Yeah.
Questions or comments or feedback that you have maybe or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah.
I was expecting to like answer a survey and like see
Yeah.
questions that you wanted my
Mhm.
comments on, but yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll put that back out in our week at a glance tomorrow to, hey, don't forget. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
see, we need that perspective.
That's why it pays, right? to have
Yeah,
parents on board.
absolutely.
Well, and I can tell you too, I was kind of anticipating that. So I'm thankful that we got 21 responses.
Yeah.
Because it's so odd to ask for questions like that, right? I get like that's an unusual format for, gathering that type of information, but we'll definitely clarify that before we send it back out.
Absolutely. The other thing, we did add a new big rock. So, through everything, kind of, I don't want to say tearing everything apart because it's not all broken, but going through everything, Alicia and I realized through the human resource side of things that there's just things that systems haven't been put into place. So making sure that we streamline, how do we onboard people and what does that look like? As you may recall, I said I was looking at something other than ADP. And so starting to put systems in place for that changeover and what does that look like, making sure salary schedules are set, because when I was questioning that, I get different answers of what salary schedule do we use and all of those sorts of things. So we did add a new big rock and the tab on there, and her and I are starting our first meeting tomorrow, but she has already went in and I said, think about where you want to be at the end of the year and kind of plan that out by a month. So you'll start to see, hear about information about how we're working with that department to ensure that we streamline that. Principal meetings. So we continued our last meeting with our book study being excellent on purpose. And of course, the topics were all around feedback. The various types of feedback, and then of course the importance of that. When do we use feedback to correct a behavior, but then also when do we use feedback to coach? And so that's kind of the focus I really want to work with admin, is about that coaching piece and just improvement that way. And so we're going to, I had asked the admin to get into classrooms and just start giving feedback, just various types of feedback. And then we're going to come together and just review that feedback, take off identifiable information, of course, and then start calibrating what type of feedback. Hey, this is what I observed. How would you give the feedback to ensure that we're all saying the same things? And then I asked them to bring to the 19th meeting that we have questions around academics and behavior. And so you can see the questions about, how are they going to communicate their focus? What PDs do we need? And then how we're going to measure that progress. So we'll discuss that on the 19th. So that will start in January. I know today Lachey and Leanna was actually meeting to start planning some of the behavior PD that's going to be on the 8th. And it's around, after speaking to them, they're not just looking at the social emotional learning or that type of behavior, also learning behaviors and what are the kids doing in regards to learning behaviors. So we'll do that first initial PD, and then they have a plan that would do that coaching throughout to the end of the school year as well. So
what is PD?
Professional development. I'm
Okay, sorry. I was trying to
sorry.
check. That's okay.
See,
Got it.
that's
Yep.
how I feel about the
Professional
finance acronyms. So.
Like,
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry about that. Yes. And so that's kind of some of the things that we've been working on, and you can kind of see for our next meeting, and we'll talk a little bit during finance as well, but I'd like for us to kind of focus on the CASA program and, what route do we want to take? And I had hoped to have information to you today, but it just snuck up on me to say, okay, what are our options about the 2 classrooms in the primary building? And then I also want to look at that 5-year planning on the student enrollment and how that's going to affect our budget. So I have been breaking that apart. I have found an old one and been playing with numbers just to kind of see what we need. So I'll bring that to our January meetings so you all are aware of, and then we can make decisions based off of that, of what's going to be for the health of the program.
And if we need to set a working session for something like that too, if it's going to be more like digging in at solutions and numbers and really just like, that would sound more like a working session versus like if we need actual time to like look at things and discuss it and things like that. So we can always put something like that on the calendar too if we need.
I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I think when we can sit down and just focus on one thing and say, okay, this is where we're at, where do we see ourselves, and what's going to make the best sense for growth of the school.
Yeah, I think that we had said originally, we met back in the summer, for sort of a planning type session that we might want to do something again before the year's out. So doing it in maybe January or
Yeah.
towards the beginning of the year at least,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, to kind of get us together.
Yeah.
What's kind of the problem statement with CASA that would be the focus of that conversation?
So we need to figure out the two that's in the NPR.
Mhm.
We need to figure out, you know, what's the next steps. You know,
Mhm.
I really don't, while they're not complaining, those kind of things,
Yeah.
I think it is a hardship being in there. It's also a hardship on the rest of it. So, you know, do we want to look at, again, putting them in the two classrooms down here? And then do we want to bid that out again to see, you know, do we
Back to
want
that
portable?
same.
Yes.
as to how
Mhm.
the
Where are we housing them?
Facility
Mhm.
conversation.
Yes.
Okay, not something broader with. the
No,
health
no, no,
department
no.
and stuff. Okay.
Well, I will
It's
tell
like a
you the
health of that
budget.
program, like, so.
Yeah, no. I will tell you, I found budget numbers, and what was projected for next year was to open up a 2-year-old classroom. And so then we would have to talk through that.
Yeah.
Where do you put it? You know,
Yeah.
what's the point behind that? So we just need to look at different options to say what's gonna be the best.
Yeah.
You know, do we take that on? You know, those kind of things. So
Yeah. That's
those are the
working
things
session
I'd
for
like
sure.
to definitely
Put
work
another
through.
building next door to it.
Can you just build another
Yeah.
building? It'll be fine.
We've only tried that a couple times, right? We're still trying to find the
I
water
know.
main over there and they haven't found it yet.
I know.
And it's
I
sink into
know.
the ground.
Yeah.
We
every
couldn't
time.
do portables until they find the water main.
Yeah, we're still trying to find that.
They
so
haven't
it's fine.
found it
We
yet.
had portables, that, like.
I know, but now where they would,
where.
well, now that's where the court is.
Yeah.
So now where we would put the
Yeah.
portables, they can't find a water main, right?
Yeah.
That's
Does
what they're
water
looking
not
for.
just magically come out of the ground?
No,
Just
They're
water
not
levels?
finding
Yeah.
They can't
Yeah.
find it. And I'm like, I don't,
Yeah.
Well, there's gotta be
It
engineering.
has
I feel we have
Somewhere that-
drawings.
yeah.
What's the architect?
CPH did all the civil engineering.
Z development. We should
As-
have the blueprints through Z development.
They did the architecture and then CPH did like
Yeah,
the,
of the
all
original.
the civil engineering out there, the
CPH.
infrastructure, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so-
CPH.
yeah.
Okay,
So maybe that is a better place to start than trying to have the city come out and find it
okay,
Yeah, and I mean,
unsuccessfully.
we had contacts from both of those.
Yeah.
okay.
Z, it's.
Yeah, we're not asking for
Yeah,
more work.
Z,
We
I
just
know.
need the drawings
No,
to
they
be
should
able
have it. They should be
to
able to provide
locate
us.
that. Right. That's
You
what I'm
might
saying.
search your email folder for things like
Oh,
that too, cause.
Okay, because
they're
that might be in
probably
there.
Say, weren't you involved in a lot of that? Brett?
Yeah, but
Might be
even
your
then, that
old
was
one,
like,
or
I
did-
mean, that email box goes
Oh, I
back
know it does.
forever.
Yeah, it would be there too.
I stopped searching after a
And
time period.
so if you look for Aaron, it was Aaron from CPH was our civil engineer, don't remember his last name. And then Bob, obviously Bob Z is the,
Yeah.
is the. he was also- but-
CPH.
So, but Z,
Bob the Builder.
the architects on that was the Ziskovich architects too, so. Then we had a different architecture team that did that project and.
And the person that was looking, was with the mobile company.
City
It was-
can't give you that either.
They've been looking for it.
Yeah.
My
The
brother
builders
had
had-
all those as built, so didn't you go with me to his office? And he pulls out, like, he's
Yeah.
got the actual roll in some file cabinet, he pulls out
Yeah.
like the rolls. Of
And I think
as-built,
that's what we
like-
have to talk, even if they
Yeah.
find it, you know, what's the cost, one, to do all the work to
Yeah.
get them in, and then it's $5,000 a month to rent them.
Yeah,
So, you know, we need to just look at that
Yeah.
long
Right.
term, what's that
Right.
long term
Yeah.
goal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
cause I was gonna ask too, like, with the move, the high school, middle school merge. Then that, what is that, then the follow-on transition plan for this space here,
Mhm.
so, I mean, I guess that's really that.
yes, so we've talked, Kathy and I've talked a little bit about that, and of course, nothing's set in stone, because I'm still over here trying to figure out how I can turn that high school into a primary building, but stupid upstairs and the wall, but
Yeah.
so taking those 4 classrooms over, then, you know, we would move, of course, the business office upstairs and then probably music, or she had a plan for that to move upstairs. We have the library up there, and then that would have free up 2 classrooms down here that we could put those 2 over into
But
that.
then we'd have to come do the plumbing and all of that bathroom.
Yeah,
Right.
so there's gonna be construction involved in either one,
Yeah.
either construction for portables or construction for the restrooms here.
The restrooms are the one time,
Mhm.
affordable,
Right.
and ongoing, every year,
Right,
unless we bought them.
yeah. And so we just would want to get bids out for that. And according to Kathy, in the past, it was hard because it was such a small job to find somebody to do such a small job. So, but we can, definitely look at that. So those are the things I think we need to
Yeah.
just sit down and talk about, like what direction.
And then that would have to happen like over the summer.
Right.
In a short window of time.
Yes.
Might even been Scott Cormia.
I wonder if that's a shift from
Scott Cormier was
like,
the architects that we.
commercial
that we
real estate
engaged for the
developers to more of
high
just
school
a.
when we were gonna
it's like
build it.
linear.
That's what I.
Because it's
kind
not
of-
as
it's not
big
that
of a
big.
project.
They were the
It's still a big
architects on that
project.
Right,
but
but-
it's
building and then
$50,000.
PPH was the civil
Small.
engineer.
It's just not a $1 million project.
I
Right.
don't think Bob Z did. Bob Z didn't do the civil engineering on this basic building. So it was CPH.
Okay.
Yeah. We can look, and I'll look through some of the old emails too that I
The
have.
environmental too.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to go down and see Mike too.
So that's kind of what's been happening. I know we'll talk about finance stuff in the finance section, but that's more of the operational side of things that's been occurring. Do you want me to go on into the buildings and grounds or you want me to wait?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't really sure, and I hope what I put down made sense, but I met with Tito. And first of all, like, I just can't say enough about Tito and his team. And Corbin at the high school is great too. He's just newer, and so we're still creating that relationship. But Tito has been so responsive. He meets with, I have a team lead meeting once a month. He's a part of that. And so he'll talk to us about his needs and those sorts of things, but he's been great about cost savings too. So that's part of it. I asked him just to tell me some things that we have to have completed here on this campus. What do we have to focus on? So I listed some of the bigger things that we've done. Of course, tree removals. I cannot believe what people charge to remove trees around here. I'm gonna just get my own saw and do it. But I'm like, what? But like I said, Tito was able to find some cost savings on he changes the air filters instead of having companies to come out and do it. Those
These parents that do tree removal,
I don't know.
we found parents that'll do
Yeah,
projects for us before.
yeah. I told my husband, I'm like, well, you're gonna be
Yeah, if
removing
there's
trees
a
now.
business out there that they have.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that might
Got
need
it
to be
real sometimes.
an
at least.
updated procedure when you think about like
Volunteer work,
procedural things
yeah.
for next year is
Mhm.
employment or like jobs for families that are
Right.
here. We had collected a lot of that information years and years
Yeah.
ago, but it's at
Maybe
this point, I
I-
think it's not really the way that it's formatted or something is not something that we can easily have in an Excel and just sort
Right.
to see if there is families that could support
We
the
used to
school
get
in that
that out of
realm.
school minute.
Yes.
That's
School
where
mat.
that data came
Yeah.
from. But I would just, for this one, I would just put a call out.
Put a call out, yeah.
Anybody do tree removal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky. I know one parent who owns a landscaping business that may be like, I'll do some tree work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that tree
He'll get
this
his
fall,
volunteer
and it was
hours.
like $6,000 quote
Mhm.
just to get. I'm like, oh, $6,000.
One tree, that's
One
20
tree.
hours of volunteer
Yeah,
hours.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The brick pavers that we put in out here, even though it was a small couple of jobs, like we had a parent that did that.
Yeah,
Did all that
somebody
for
just
you.
came and played the bricks, yeah.
It's a good idea, just start putting some of that out.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
And then Tito also started taking on the upkeep of the soccer field. So he, instead of worrying about somebody, lining that, we got him the equipment. He's taking care of that. Speaking of the soccer field, I-9 has signed, so they'll start. And Brandon has graciously volunteered himself to be the custodian on duty, and all of that for volunteer hours. He said, his children are here anyways, and he's part of the athletic program, so that'll be nice. So we'll see how that goes. It's only a 6 to 8 week program this time, so we'll see if it's worth it for us.
Mhm.
And for them. So you can see there the needs, of course, pest control, which doesn't sound huge, but it's actually quite expensive to do the entire grounds, but it's something that we're going to have to do soon, according to Tito. So he was working with a couple companies to get quotes and let me know what that comes in as. Of course, all the little things, the main building needs caulking, painting, cleaning, pressure washing,
Mhm.
touch up paint. So you can read through the list of things that he's talked about. When I talked to him to say, what's the most important things do we need to get to? Of course, the pest control. And then he said he can start doing some of those minor things with his custodians. So like on January 8th, when it's just the staff, getting some of those other things done when kids aren't in the building.
Mhm.
And then of course, IMHS, Corbin is our new facility manager. He's done a great job. Him and James, they are really doing honestly great work. And while the building's not that big, it's still a lot of upkeep for 1.5 people to do. So Tito helped fix our irrigation. I know I talked to you all about that, the timers on that. We've also had to fix the light switch, stairwells, basic maintenance, toilet repair, those kind of things that we've had to do. But like keeping up on the groundwork there, plus the inside of the building has been something that we're going to have to continue to do. I even had Doug, my husband, out there. He said, "Can I do some volunteer hours?" And I said, "For what?" He's like, "I'm just bored." So he got some of it, but he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize." So I gotta get better equipment. So I had him outside too. Of course, we're trying to streamline our vendors for both locations. What we found is we use 2 different elevator companies, 2 different control, and their pricing is so varied. So we're streamlining that to see what's our best cost and having one vendor for that. And then of course, we're gonna have to make sure our classrooms are structured for support of our incoming students and making sure we're ready for that and what that will look like in the buildings.
So I know that on main campus, part of the classroom procedures of the day is that the students are responsible for their own learning environment.
Mhm.
So what is that? And that might be more towards you, Jared. What does that look like on the high school realm, right? Like they have that building there, but how are they taking ownership of the high school building to make sure that they are part of that cleaning and that upkeep in some of those components versus it relying on like additional staff members?
So there's a couple things that we're implementing. We just started 2 weeks ago, I think, right after Thanksgiving break. Each of the homerooms now has an assigned day per month where during their homeroom time, they're going to be assigned to help clean the cafeteria space. So that's kind of on a rotation. And in addition to that, one of the things that we talked about that is really a component of what we see on the main campus, but haven't seen as much, is that restoration of the environment. So
Mhm.
before they're moving on to the next class, making sure that things are orderly and set up and ready to go. So some teachers already are doing that well on the high school campus, but it is something that we're emphasizing for the second half of this year and then particularly into next year, because that is an expectation that already exists, particularly at the end of the day for middle school, to have their assigned roles to clean up the classroom and have that set and ready to go for the next day. It'll look slightly different because our schedule for next year is not going to have that end of the day homeroom time every day for middle school like there is now. But wherever the students are at the end of each class period, and particularly at the end of the day, they're going to be expected to restore the environment. Teachers will be monitoring that and ensuring that the students are participating with that. So that is something that we definitely need to do a better job of at the high school campus. And we're taking some steps to do better here in the near future.
As you think about the schedule for next year, could there be a possibility where that 6th or 7th period, the last period of the day, has an additional 10-minute block in it for restoration? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I realized I muted myself back.
And you don't have to answer that now. Is that something, much just a thought?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that we can look at. I think because we're trying to ensure that we have our open work cycle periods and that the students are given adequate time in each of their classes for some direct instruction, but also some independent practice, some collaboration, projects, those kind of things. It will probably look more like a designated portion of the class period rather than like extending the day. Because I'm just trying to make sure that we're also being mindful of the number of minutes and ensuring that we have proper seat time requirements, all of those things to consider, when you're in a public school and you have to
Right.
meet those, the expectations of the state with how long the students need to be in each class, especially for the high school to be able to issue credit. So those are some of the things that we're trying to be mindful of. And one of the things I think immediately we can put into practice is that designation of the last, 3 to 4 minutes of every class period. Okay, this is our restore the environment time, and everyone, will participate in that some way.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in real quick to say, I think it is a good discussion to have with regards to not only facilities, but also just maintenance and upkeep and
Mhm.
student participation. I know I'm hearing some challenges with bathrooms at IMHS, and, I just want to make sure that, do we have enough staff to support that? Do we need to be asking our students to do more to, upkeep in that area?
Yeah.
We want to just be aware of that. So.
Right.
But I think if it's more in the natural everyday piece, they're probably going to be more willing to take care of it, knowing that at the end of the day, they've got to clean it up. So the bigger the mess, the more they have to clean up at the end of the day. So,
Right.
so if that is now part of the culture and procedures, then hopefully it would limit the amount of things that are going on theoretically.
Yeah.
They're still high schoolers at the end of the day. We love them.
I was gonna say too, where you've got noted things like caulking, painting, cleaning, pressure
Yeah.
washing, those types of things, like, again, like reaching out to community, planning a
Mhm.
Saturday work day. I know you get a bunch of dads and moms that'd be willing to come in here. I like coming out, come in and paint,
Right.
do general maintenance, things like that. You could probably get a good group of here and come in on 1 or 2 days a year
Right.
and help knock out a lot.
Well, and even
of that
donate
stuff for
materials, to
volunteer
be
hours,
honest,
too,
right? Like,
yeah.
hey, here's the materials that we need,
Yep.
for it. Just like they, I've
Used
got
to
to
do that
get
in
red
the
icing
old
for
building.
cookie decorating. I don't mind buying a
Yeah.
tube of caulking for some upkeep.
Right.
Mhm.
Which is, that is something, so I was gonna say is definitely we have our, don't know what the parents, like the beautification.
Beautification,
that
yeah,
kind of thing, is getting with them to say, hey, some of those things, can
We
we
used to
get
do like, what do they call it? Dig in the dirt days.
Yeah.
Like trying to do stuff outside, like
Yeah.
we'd have like landscaping
Mhm.
days and stuff like that. So you could do something again where it's,
Butterfly garden.
working inside, but like, I know,
Right.
especially if it ties to volunteer hours, or
Right.
even not, like,
It's good community
Right.
building.
people like doing that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
I think because we do have the garden aspect, but maybe beyond the a little
Yeah.
bit more of the maintenance and getting,
Yeah.
of course, everyone, but
One of
the-
particularly the dads,
You get 10 or 20
and
people
all,
that'd
but
be willing to come in
you
on
know.
a Saturday and knock
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Cooking, coffee,
Something, Heather,
pressure
that came up in our
Yeah.
finance committee too, was so with Esther winding down, it's one of the parts we're looking at, Heather's like, how am I gonna make these numbers work when I get into next year and going through this year? And I was like, let's go back to pre-COVID, where we relied a lot on our families to
Yeah.
cover. It was a decent chunk, and yeah, someone comes in and volunteers and paints, you're like, oh, was that really that big of a deal? Until you quote it out, and there's $40,000
Right.
that they want
Yeah.
for paint, and
Yeah.
your 2 staff members, and they could paint for 3 weeks and get nothing else done, right?
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those things
Yeah.
are. I think we're
15,
gonna be
15
leaning more
parents on
back
a
into that.
6-hour shift get a lot
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You probably got a bunch of people with pressure washers. You can come in here and pressure wash this whole
Oh,
place with 4 or 5 pressure washers going at the same time, knock this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
shit up
Something
quick,
else we
but-
need is the top windows cleaned, and
Yeah.
I've kind of put that off, even at the high school too, is getting up there, and I think the last bill I seen for that was like
Probably,
$9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so yeah, we made it. I may ask Tito to put a list together and see if we can get parents.
I'd sign up to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say put it on Sign Up Genius, click, and
Yeah.
Yeah, do it the
Saturday
day,
and
have a
Sunday.
school cleanup
Yeah.
day, and
Yeah.
have
See
that
what you
list of
get.
things. People
Same.
volunteer, it helps.
Mhm.
And we did a lot of that stuff.
I think
back
if you do it
in
as
the
a
day.
day or a couple of days,
Yeah.
then like people can come
Have on-
out and
Have on
then-
Sign Up Genius the specific spots, people kind of know what section they're reporting
Yeah.
into. When
Right.
we get there, I'm supposed to be here for paint, and here
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
cleaning the
Yeah.
second story windows, and I brought my rock climbing gear.
Please do. I want
My
to see that.
suction
Like Spider-Man.
Lady up there.
Get it down to the top.
That's kind of our buildings and
Okay.
ground update. I'm not sure if that's what you all were looking for, but
Yeah. I think
No,
that's
kind of
great.
see
Yeah,
where
just-
we're at.
And we're, so, from a bigger picture too, like, from like a reserves perspective,
Mhm.
knowing like, have we started to plan out? We had at one point, like,
air
longer term
conditioner.
air conditioner maintenance, like the
Mhm.
big ticket, you
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
things that we
Roof
need to be planning
repair,
5 years
yeah.
out,
Yes.
10 years out for, like,
Right. I can't find that document anywhere, but Tito and I actually already had that conversation.
Yeah.
So
I know
he
we
was
did
gonna
that.
start getting some of that information for me. Because like we just had a roof repair, you know, and even after they came, met with some teachers and they're like, it's still leaking. So there are things that we're gonna have
Yeah.
to really, which is why I'm, you know, trying to make sure we do set back some money for those things, because I know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like the
It'd
rest
be
of
good
the
to at
site.
least plan for the 5 or 10 year view and go, hey, like, we're
Right.
gonna have to know, here's what we think
Absolutely.
we would need, you know, the air conditioner has a 10-year lifespan on it, or
Yeah.
any of the
Yeah.
other big ticket items right here.
Yeah, that's something Dana and I had already been
Next-
talking about, and she
Next
had.
steps.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
so we do
Months.
have that list, I have that on my list
Yeah.
of, you know, things,
Budget, yeah.
yeah, that we need to plan for. Absolutely. So that's kind of that update. Any other questions you have for me about operations or?
I don't know if we were gonna talk about the school grade, or the school.
Oh, yeah. the
School
school
grade
grade.
came
grades
in.
got published.
I'm sorry.
Maybe we should just note
We-
that or something for the record.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't see it in there,
Changed
but
from
I didn't
the-
know.
What we thought, what we projected, we were graded a B.
Uh-huh.
And so that data we had already been looking at, previously, and that's where our big rocks came from, is, we are the assisted targeted school for special education. We missed it by 1 percentage point. And so, and I think this is maybe year 3 of that. So that's what one of our big rocks is for our ESC population, and then also math and then science. Looking at, that's what our goals are on, based around that.
Mhm.
So,
What do you get? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, when do you get in that category of, I don't know what it's called, where you get like a lower rate from the county?
that would be
A,
A, which
yeah.
is what we're gonna try.
Yeah.
Yes,
It saves
Yeah.
us a lot of money.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we, last year, were graded as 2 separate schools. We'll be
Mhm.
graded as one school, K through 12.
I think so, because
Next
we're
year.
under one
Charter.
charter now, so
Yeah.
I would say yes. You just, I mean, you gotta remember, high school has a little bit different criteria, the
Yeah.
graduation rate, those kind of
Yeah.
things, but yes, the
I
way,
just didn't know if
the
that
way
all gets
OCPS
combined
is
Yeah.
going
together,
is
one grade
one
now.
Yeah.
combination of one,
That
yeah,
Makes
Yeah.
it risk more complicated that, you know,
Yeah.
one can weigh differently on the other, but
right,
Absolutely.
it helps
Yeah.
us to now just consolidate.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure how that's gonna play out as far as the weighted, because there's gonna be some new sections of the test as well. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
hard right now with some of that. And it's hard to compare last year's scores to this. You can't really, because it's
Yeah.
different tests, and then COVID was there, but you know, what I talked to the principals about, and I'm sure they're sharing with the staff, is honestly, for me, it's about each child's individual growth. And so really comparing that PM1 to PM2,
Mhm.
because we know PM1 scores are going to start off lower because that's what they're expected to know by the end of the year. But by PM2, we should be able to start seeing what kids do we need to target that's not making the growth that we need by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At 4.5 months of instruction.
Right.
Yeah.
So we should
Looks
ultimately
impressive.
see growth.
Yeah.
At the end. I will tell you, Stephen and Natalie piloted testing a couple students with iPads. That's in the lower level. When I went to the charter school conference and met with another principal, and he was sharing with our principals and myself about they test on iPads at their younger grades because kids don't have the fine motor to click.
Mhm.
And so it's easier to touch.
So you-
And we had some great response from that. And now we have teachers asking if the other, so that would be our goal, is that when, just for testing, what I want to make sure is, though, I am not a fan of kids at a young age having technology, so it wouldn't be something that they would have regularly, but for testing purposes where they can just point and touch.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we'll
Opportunities
look at.
to like rent those, or like for a period of time, like if you needed 100 iPads for, you know, a week, 2
Yeah.
weeks.
I'm not sure.
I should start that business.
I'm pretty sure that,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's gotta
Gotta
be
be a
like,
company.
I know there's technologies like with the conventions and conventions
Right.
area, there's a lot of people
Yeah, I know
that
we
need to
work with them
rent
in
technology for
conventions.
short periods of time, so
Yeah.
like I bet you could,
Do
if
that.
you needed 100 iPads or 50
Mhm.
iPads or something for
It's a good
2
idea.
weeks to do testing,
Right.
like wonder what it would cost versus going and buying
I'm buying them.
100
Well, I
And
know,
maintaining them.
I don't want to speak for Steven, but he has spoken to me about, he thinks we can actually get some iPads fairly cheap.
Yeah,
And that would really also help with some of those research projects and those kind of things, just to have those on hand, that they are actually a lot cheaper than what we pay for laptops for our
Yeah.
older kids. So looking at, would we be better off to buy a fleet of iPads for research and those kind of things at the younger grades? Again, I don't want them in the classrooms all day, but with those, and then having actual laptops for the older kids kind of thing. So he was working through that as well, and has told me he'll come to me in January with some quotes of what that looks like. Because we do have some ESSER money allotted for the technology.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, he says to me in a message, we are meeting with a school tomorrow to learn more about it.
There you go.
I see Kathy had her hand
Yeah.
up,
Oh,
so
yes.
now she's
going.
removed her hand though.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Kristen, we kind of moved on, but just for anyone who's not familiar with our school, or anyone who just happened across board docs and wanted to watch a random board meeting, just to say, I'm at the B is great. You know, we're always working to get better with student achievement, but I just do want to call out that what we teach is far outside what is demanded of the standards. We teach our kindergartners to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, analyzing sentences for parts of speech, and world geography, which is not a kindergarten standard everywhere. It's not ever showing up on a test that they take. Same goes for all our students. So just to keep that in mind, test scores are not our sole goal. A great education is, and having a good high B is fabulous. That's my 2 cents.
Great, thank you.
Just gonna say with, you know, with items like that, we're talking about the building and capital projects, but you know, and I'm sure it exists, but probably more of just a running capital project list, right?
Mhm.
But obviously operational, technology, wish list, educational, you know, and segmenting that out. And then because it's good for us to talk about it here, but then, you know, 2 months from now or whatever, right, we're, you know, on
Right.
something else. So, you know, I guess because obviously we need to understand, A, that's great, B, where the dollars come from, and and what's on the priority list. But
Right.
you know, it's how we had to do it in the hotel world was capital expenditures.
Right.
And then every area should come with their wish list, and then ultimately you decide and present to us, and you know, we should really be signing off on the you know, capital projects
Right.
on an annual basis.
Yeah, above, you know, if it's above a certain threshold or.
It's
Yeah.
above
You
the
know.
discretionary, but even at this point, that discretionary threshold, I'm sure, is pretty low. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to see it.
And that's what we'll do. I really want to have that list of saying, okay, like you had said,
We just have to
we know the roof we'll have to replace. We need to make sure we start putting money back, because that's the first thing, whatever is on the list. I don't know what, you know, what that looks
what's
like yet, but
grantable, you know, through
Yes.
SR, whatever, but just to.
yes.
yeah, we should be planning a certain percentage every year that
Absolutely.
goes into that reserve fund that's there to help fund
Right.
that in 5 or 10
We
years.
have like a master maintenance and repair and replacement schedule. When
We-
you know you're gonna have to paint every 5 years, you know you're gonna have
Right.
to repair a roof every 20 years.
Yeah.
And there should be a capital improvement plan for facilities, which works alongside the capital plan
Yeah.
for instructional materials. Some of
I'm
which are.
sure it's somewhere. I just have not put my hands on that yet. because that would really be helpful instead of us having to start over.
Right.
So if one of you all do have that in a document somewhere that's been
Oh, I
here for a
can see.
while, let me know. And
I feel like that-
I'm not saying that it's not in
We didn't-
Patrice's old files, but.
But even like, you know, when we buy a air conditioning unit, there should be a manual that comes with it and
Mhm.
whatever the maintenance is. Some things are
Yeah.
monthly, some things are
Yeah.
annual.
Yeah.
We're gonna significantly shorten the life expectancies of our systems if we're not
Mhm.
doing this thing and
Right.
voiding warranties and everything else.
And I would say Tito has a lot of that as far as the bigger pieces, because I rely on him to tell me, he's like, we've got to get this maintenance so we can make sure we keep this in, those kind of things. But I just need a document somewhere where that's created to say, what does that look like?
Yeah, or even, yeah.
Yeah, like as simple as I found out we don't have any surge protectors on anything. Like, so he's like, so he's quoting that out for me because I'm like, yeah, we really need to have that. So those are kind of things too that we're writing through to say, so it's both ends. It's little things that's gonna add up, buying all those, but at the same time, what's those bigger pieces of equipment? And what that
I'm
looks like.
Yeah, I
skeptical
mean,
that there
my
is a
assumption
document.
is he would, you'll find that, get your running list and then, you know, a couple months prior to budget, we'll start vetting that list
Yes.
and decide what we'll prioritize for.
Mhm.
That's where we are now, a couple months prior to budget. I'm skeptical there is a list, because
By the way, you got voted in earlier.
I tried to log in.
If we made
You're
one,
official
it
now.
probably
So
has
I've
an
had
idea
new
that
names.
we landed them here.
Okay,
I really doubt
Congratulations.
they're High school.
okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what the high school
Oh,
Just before we do the finance update, I want to let you know.
Probably gonna get your snook around a little bit more.
Okay.
Probably like just saying, hey, let's just lean in and build it. with
Build it
one.
on it. Okay.
You know, start with your big items and then start layering into other things that'll kind of go.
Okay.
fit.
Sounds like a good lead into the finance discussion.
Ready for finance. You are.
Okay.
Let's do it. Stop me if I ramble, if I get too far off on it. I've got good conversations with Heather today and in last finance committee last month. So for starters, check board docs for financials published by our building public accountants. So there's two documents out there. One is for October, just for the month, and then the other, actually there's three, but one is balance sheet. I encourage you to focus on the profit and loss statement. That'll give you more of a understanding what's going on. I find the one that's listed as July to October, so that's the full year, easier to understand kind of what's going on. It smooths out what happened in 1 month or another. In that document, you'll see that there's a 3.3 million in revenue so far this year and 3.5 million in expense. So we're about 200,000 more expense than revenue. Obviously, long term, that's not sustainable, but it's also a little bit more normal where we see more expense in the beginning of the year. Heather's also done work, right? We just approved a new budget last month to make some of those adjustments to line us up to end the year more sustainable. From my experience and the information I'm getting from Heather and team, they've made great progress transitioning quickly to a new system. So it's being Building Hope's new accounting system, getting new people up and running with understanding it. The challenges that I'm hearing from Heather are exactly what I would expect for a new team that's standing up a new system in finance accounting sort of space. So I'm expecting the end result is going to be a better place, which will allow us to leverage industry standards. And it should make it easier. With one of the parts that's kind of exciting with Building Hope team is they have other schools that they work with. So we can also get more benchmarks from them, insight on things, a little bit more standard documents. To that end, I've also asked them with the document that we put on building or on board docs. I also asked, I was like, I'd like to see budget listed with that as well as a variance column, probably a month to date and then a year to date one. That helps a lot of it. That's also one of the Lily's still working through is polishing some of that last stuff. So that way, they're like right now, there's a little bit more variances on budget to actuals because things just aren't still quite lined up exact. So that should be smoothing out a little bit more too as we go further in. Like I said, I give you top accolades for landing in a new space and transitioning to a new system. With what I do at work, I dabble in, more than dabble in that sort of environment, and you move quickly. Just a few months that's a lot that went in. So nicely done.
Sorry, Philip, were you saying that Building Hope will be publishing something for us that'll show the variances?
Yeah, so I've sent back to
line
them.
area? Okay.
Yeah, so it will probably look a lot like what this document that's out there, but I'm envisioning it probably having two more columns, one for budget and then one for variance to it. Something that'll be for our new treasurer and Heather and the accountant to figure out is, what do you do for communicating back, right? Do you do more of a document that has, this is different because of this, or do you just throw it at the board and say, here's the variances? You know, ideally we'd have something that has some additional communication in there.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Oh, Heather did pull me in. She reminded me that we do an annual update. Well, she was reminded, and she reminded me that as part of our bond agreement, we do an annual update to our bond investors. So we will be doing that next week. It didn't quite seem right to be like, AJ, you're the treasurer, you can do it. So I'll
Look at
be
his face.
I'll be doing that with
That's a
Heather.
lot to
Congratulations,
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Expecting it to be relatively short, going through some of the DAC filing documents, and some of our financial numbers.
Is there a presentation that we're putting together for that?
Yes, so when I realized that we had to do it,
Yeah,
I reached out to the DAC company that we use, the bond company, and for a fee,
yeah,
they will post it to the IMO website. They've got the agenda, and then they gave me some examples. And so what it will be is I shared a chart with you all that has like our retention
Yeah.
rate, our wait list, those kind of things. So I'm going to turn that into a presentation. They want to know about our academics, our student demographics, and then our audit report. And so I asked Philip if he would share the audited part, the finance, and I'll do the other
we
side.
did some roadshow decks that we put together when we were going through the bond process, and we had to go to the investor community and, you know,
Mhm.
kind of tout ourselves on why they should invest in us. And so we may have some templates from that
Okay,
you guys might want to use to go back and say, hey, these were the, because we got it down to maybe like 6 or 7 slides.
Okay,
That was
perfect.
like,
Yeah.
exactly, that talked about numbers, talked about our community and the culture and our academic performance, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
if there's anything you can leverage from there, I mean, you would probably have access to those files, but.
okay, yeah. She said it had to be posted for 60 days. There may or may not be anybody on there, but they have to record it and post it.
Oh.
The only other thing we're waiting on as far as the bond is the days cash on hand certification. I guess the auditor didn't realize he had to do that too, so he's communicating back and forth with Philip and I to get that polished up so I can get that submitted by the 15th.
And does that have to be 45 days?
To the June 30th one was from 2023 of this year, so it's 30 days.
Okay.
And he calculated us at 27 and some
I thought it was
change.
28.4.
Yeah, some kind of change, which is better than what Moody's
Yeah.
had originally
Yeah.
calculated. But he responded to my message and said he'll call me tomorrow. But
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, 28 days cash on hand is what he has.
Yeah, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So what happens if we
Yeah.
don't make the 30?
So kind of like what Moody's had told us, it could then prompt investors to come in and want to know what we're doing to fix it, because we have to be at 45 days in June. They could require us to have a consultant, which is kind of one of the reasons where we're working with Dana from Building Hope. That's what she does on the side as well, as consulting for that. So I'm hoping through all of that we can show, hey, we're already doing.
Yeah, I would
what-
imagine there's a story to tell over what you've
Yeah.
done over the last
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
months of how we
Absolutely.
brought in the consulting help, brought in
Yeah.
a firm to help manage this going forward,
Right.
submitted and approved a new budget, like,
Yeah.
here's the steps we've taken to reduce costs. That's probably part of your
Right.
pitch
Yeah.
back to the bond community.
And this is next
So
week,
that-
you said?
Yeah, it's next Thursday at 3.
Need that calendar.
Absolutely.
But
Is the cash in hand the only kind of area that
Yeah,
has the box?
Well, we had 2 that we had to do. The other one was the 1 to 110 ratio, but it looks like we met that.
Okay.
According to what he has sent us. I mean, it's not finalized.
Yeah, and that one, once we added in like our depreciation and amortization, we were pretty solidly better than that 1-to-1 ratio, 1.1 ratio. So there was some numbers I was like,
The
"Hey, let's
ratio
tweak
that
them,"
has
but
it,
what?
What's the ratio?
It's basically your revenue or your, yeah, it looks at our revenue as compared to our debt service.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, you can't be going just barely
It's like a
making it by your
leverage, a
operations,
lever
right?
where
So it's the debt
Okay.
coverage ratio, and
Okay.
it's
Oh, yeah.
your
There you go.
revenues after backing out your operational expenses divided by your debt service. And it has to be 1.1 versus 110, which is actually pretty favorable. You're usually higher than that.
Yeah, we were, Yeah.
Are we regularly capitalizing, the bigger expenses on the
Yeah.
balance sheet as
We-
depreciable assets?
top of my head, I don't remember what a threshold was, but we actually had lowered it.
So we could capitalize.
So that
more.
way we were capitalizing
Yeah.
more because it helps with that
Yeah.
ratio.
Yep.
We brought that in I think 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We tweaked
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then once we've added on the buildings and stuff, it tweaked more, right? So now we've got more depreciation,
Yeah.
expense like that coming in.
So I'll send that to you all and then you can just decide, if you want to hop on or not. I'll get, as soon as she sends me the link, I'll get it to you all, as you may have.
And then
I
a
sent
little-
you the hold so you can put on your calendar, Angie. Just the hold.
Yeah.
Who handles that call? Do we just,
So, it's called DAC Bond Company.
they'll do the call for us?
Yeah, yes, for a $500 fee.
Or fee.
It's worth it.
But it was worth it
That's what-
because that's what I told her. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I'm Googling, like
I
they use all
actually
these
thought
other.
it was kind of funny. She's like, well, it's kind of pricey. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, not really, because we're paying you $475 to tell us what we do and make sure we do it.
Yeah.
right."
Yeah.
And like, whatever, I'll pay you $25 to host a Zoom call. Like,
Yeah.
but not really.
Like,
It's
Now, do
the
they- do
having
you
the
still have to give
confidence.
the pitch or do they give?
I
the
still
pitch?
have to give it, well, we still have to give it
But
back.
that's
We
it.
have to give it. But I literally
wrong
have
there.
been Googling, like, what does, because they use like DSCR, debt service, whatever, and I'm like, what does this mean? Lily, tell me what this means, and so we're over here Googling what half of it means, but we got there. So yes, it's worth, I would pay the $500 out of my own pocket because I don't want to do that. Because,
You have to be careful on this.
yeah, yeah, so we're just gonna do the facts on the call. Yeah. So,
Any words of advice for us? We should keep in
Yes.
mind.
Yeah. Just stick to the script.
Less is
do
more.
you, would you like to do it?
Is there Q&A?
There, you do have to have a chance to do, Q&A.
If people come, or
Yes,
they
if
may
they
not come.
Right.
Oh, the investors.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it's
it's kind of open call.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can Heather run the script by you before we present, Kevin?
Sure.
Yeah. Now he's got me a little bit scared.
I mean, I'd appreciate, I think it'd be good to share.
Oh, well.
Board general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Well, it was helpful to see the numbers for sure,
Yeah.
just even in that one compiled document, to see all that,
Mhm.
just, those are all the key numbers, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, my goal is to have that wrapped up by Friday, so I'll just shoot it out to you all so you can see it and definitely get it to you to.
No,
Yeah.
who would attend? Is it just would it be one of the analysts from one of the two investors that we have?
I think that guy can tell us a lot more. than I
Really
can.
just, I mean, we only had 2 bondholders.
Mm.
That bought up all.
Or
the
their
bonds. Yeah, if
representatives,
they
right?
have,
Like they
an
can have
analyst from
somebody,
them, yeah, one of their analysts come and
yeah. They might have like
Just looking,
set questions or something that
Yeah.
they have.
they haven't traded.
So it would be if our bonds sell to someone or if they're wanting to sell the bonds, right? That's who's
Yeah.
going to be looking at our bonds have gone down in value or up. and Where our rate is, and I guess they've declined in value, right? Because rates have gone up.
yeah, bonds are less favorable these days.
Yeah.
I had a question, just like a high level question on the 200K or that we have Delta. But you mentioned that we tend to have more expenses front end loaded. I guess with the new budget, do we feel like we are gonna be okay? Or like kind of what's the sense of like the bigger picture? as it
So
gets
one of the
closer?
items that we do have is our capital outlay that we get every year. And that's always a bit unknown how much we'll actually get until the dollars typically hit our bank account is when we find out. If it comes in where we hope it will, then from the work that Heather's done suggests we'll still have to keep it squeezed, but we'll be okay. We'll make it through
And
without
that is
any other staffing
from
cuts or any changes.
OCPS, the capital?
It's the state level, but it flows, all our dollars
Okay.
flow through OCPS to
Mhm.
get to our bank
Okay.
account.
But
And
we didn't
then-
budget for that higher number. right? We took the,
We,
that was what Dana was saying last time, right? That they took the conservative numbers on those with the hope that those would come in higher.
Yes, so we've received the regular capital outlay. What we're waiting on is the local capital outlay. And so this is the first year that charter schools have been allowed to receive the local capital outlay. And you can only receive 20% this year. And then every year they add 20% to that. So next year we'll see 40. But they're hoping that it's 150,000. So that is in our budget already, that we have planned that we'll receive 150,000 this year. It comes out in February. If it's a huge adjustment, then we'll come back to the board and talk about our budget.
If it's less,
If it's less, then we may have
are
to.
you saying, Philip, you think it could be more?
that's what, well, the guidance we got, the 150,000
Yeah.
is where we, best guess,
Yeah.
but these capital outlays always,
That was, Dana got that information from Richard.
Yeah,
That's what he thinks ours will be. But he said, you know, it can always change.
Yeah.
But that's what he thinks.
I thought she had said there was a couple places like that where they had taken the conservative number with the hope that we would come in favorable to that, that could offset some of that.
I do believe
Other
what Tricia
areas that-
said
Yeah.
to us.
I didn't have to go back and look at
Yeah.
my notes, so I
Yeah.
remember what those individual line items, if they were.
Yeah.
But then will we get like an FEFP recalc or like catch up?
Well, she mentioned that, but we had already put that in the budget, and afterwards I talked to her about that, like, hey, Kevin and I had already put in the increase that because our numbers went up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so we had already put in the October's budget.
Okay.
That one is a
Recap.
good call out though, because our FEFP dollars received is what's gonna be showing up on our financials as actuals.
Yeah.
We will have some catch up, because that hasn't come through yet, right? Like,
What?
catch up for the FEFP payout. that
No,
was
we have
lower
not got
earlier
the
in
catch
year.
up
So
for that
that's an
yet.
area where we'll typically see some
Mhm.
more revenue without the incremental expense that goes with it.
Mhm.
That would improve. Usually, depends on the time of year. I feel like every year has its own flavor. Some years they end up saying, here's your money, it's only November. And other years it's like, well, now that it's January, we're gonna stretch out the remainder and we'll make you whole by the time we get to June, but we're not gonna pay it to you all at
Right.
once.
And another thing, like food service, so Brittany, like she sent a message today, been able to file a little bit more with the National School Lunch Program, so I don't think, you know, her running her numbers, that will be as big a loss as what we thought that would be, so yeah, so she's done an excellent job of making sure those numbers are filed. We are pushing out, we're gonna go ahead and push out the free and reduced form and ask people to fill that out. But make it very clear, if you've already filled it out and you are not eligible, then, or you are eligible to, don't fill it out again, but those ones, just so we can kind of see if that will come in.
Mhm.
And then I know Cindy's done a great job at the high school, you know, helping assistance with school or tests, fees and those kind of things with that information, helping
Mhm.
families out that way, so we'll have that, but so that's some other revenue hopefully coming in.
Yeah.
And then Pizza Friday starting, so that'll hopefully generate some money.
Yeah, a lot of those little parts, Pizza Friday, there was
Yeah.
a base program, there's,
Mhm.
you know, summer programs, looking for more ways to,
Right.
you know, it's good to hear Heather and team's brain starting to go on like, okay, how do we increase revenue, right? It reminded me
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
what I
more of
heard a
the
lot last time was,
pre-COVID
you know,
side,
like
yeah.
base and summer camp. I mean, do we have
So
somebody
we
looking
do,
at that, or-
actually, I've already met, I have all these little meetings and I don't tell you about all of them, but I already met with our base coordinator. She had already planned out, we're gonna have a spring break base, so she's finalizing the staff that will work, and then we'll get that out in January, beginning of January, to parents if they want to sign up for that. And
So I'm
then
gonna make
she,
sure is in the board docs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and then also making sure, we're gonna have a summer one as well. So, we talked through what those dates would look like. It's gonna start immediately when school is out of session in May, and then running through to like August the 2nd or the 1st or something like that. So
That there would be a summer camp,
there will be a
Full
summer
of-
base all summer.
summer base.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, we'll work with staff to see if they want to run camps or clubs throughout the summer.
Okay.
as well as another way to generate revenue. The one thing we have to be cautious with there is we do have to have an SRO on campus now, even in the summer.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
you know, unfortunately, that's gonna be an added fee for that we'll have to offset.
Is there a
that cost.
minimum number of students on campus for that to have happen?
No, they just
They
said
have a
anytime.
quote there, or, you know,
Yeah.
like a,
Yeah. No, they, I guess the law passed maybe in the spring because we had to have one on
Yeah.
campus this summer for the summer programming and
okay.
anytime kids are in session.
So that's something to consider for summer as to where you want to house
Right.
any additional between the two buildings.
Yes.
Because then if you have to pay for two SROs,
Yeah.
that's a lot of extra money.
Right. We
Right.
talked about it mainly being here.
Yeah.
We also talked about providing base at the high school for next year, especially for the middle school families and those kind of things. So looking through that, we think we have staff that would be willing to do that and offer that, because right now that's not an option,
Yeah.
but offering that
We were
too.
gonna drive them back over here, be able to drive them back over here too, with that. To have any like
Base.
after school stuff like that here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't know. She didn't mention that, but that we can definitely look at, but
We had that bus and then we couldn't, I don't know what
Girl.
happened to the bus.
we still have a driver but I
Still have
did
the
tell
bus?
you, we still have the bus. I did get somebody to tell me that an auction company that I could possibly resell it and try to get a van. So
Yeah,
where
that's-
anybody
that's
can drive the
because
van.
it said a van, like,
Yeah.
and then could be
Yeah.
bus
Yeah.
based kids, it's that way if you
Yeah.
don't have it, it's more efficient
Right.
to have them
Have
on
them on
campus.
one spot,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I remember we talked
Um,
about that at one point,
yeah.
yeah.
There was an opportunity with just the student supply fee
Mhm.
too, that I felt like was fairly substantial, right? And is that still,
We are
are
still
we doing that up anymore?
really trying hard. Yes, Cindy is working through that, sending out messages. Last count, we had 344 families that still hadn't paid.
So
And so we're
what,
sending individual messages and those kind of things.
so what do we have in the realm there to be able to collect that? Like what?
I don't know what legal ground we would
Right.
have. You know, we talked about holding like report
Report
cards
cards.
and things like that until it's paid.
Yeah.
And, you know, we do have several, like 150 families that will make their second payment in January, which is fine.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, yeah, because we only have 20% of our kids that are identified free and reduced. So we
Right.
know that 20% could potentially not pay, but the rest
Right. Should be.
should be paid.
Yeah.
And then how many messages have they been sent at this point?
I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but I know Cindy's been on it,
Yeah.
you know.
Is
and
that
I
going
think
out through email? Is that going
Yeah, I
out
think
through?
it's through Parent Square and email, I think is what she had indicated to me. And I had a couple parents that actually reach out to me to say, well, I think I paid it. And then I could go back and look and say yes or no and those kind of
Yeah.
things.
Do you
So,
think we need to do a process change, I guess, if we're not
Yes.
getting payment? I mean, going into the next
Next school year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think I've been talking to admin about what are some ways, like you're not gonna get your kid's class schedule until you have paid your supply fee and those
Mhm.
sorts of things. And then also, you know, do we go back to, hey, we're gonna ask for pencils, papers, the basics up front.
Yeah.
And then, you know, because any other school you go to has a supply, and honestly, Dana was kind of shocked that we don't charge like at the high school course fees
Right.
for, you know, so science, if you're gonna take this course,
Yeah.
it's this, we don't do that. And so she was kind of shocked about that, which I've
Mhm.
only been in high schools that happens.
What was the amount per person?
$100.
For the entire year.
And we have 344,
Mhm.
so what can we withhold until it's paid? Like, can we, I mean,
Other than, I don't know what you would have other than report cards.
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it needs to be,
Yeah.
something needs to be withheld,
Mhm.
and if that's,
Do we, I mean, there's
that's
definitely,
really, I mean,
there's
that's.
some legal, like, I don't know what ability we do have to
Yeah.
hold back, like, the schedule, like, at some point, it's like, we can't deny the kids access to school, right?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah,
But
I do
sometimes
think we
just-
have to talk through. I've talked to Stephen a little bit about it too, like even like you pay your own insurance fee on your device. If you're gonna, you know, use our device, then you pay your own insurance fee because the amount of chargers that are getting broken and, you know, those kind of
Right.
things, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like $25 a year or something like that, that you're gonna pay the insurance fee on. I don't know. We've just gotta think
Yeah.
through those things and say, what can
Yeah,
we
I
do?
mean, I'm sure between the APs and the principals, someone will have a creative solution for that. And then we just make sure, obviously, it's within the grounds that we can do, but I mean,
Right.
that's.
Yeah, and I think the system in place will, the school pay system and how it's set up, and let me
Yes.
go find that particular one, is that for this year, you know, like, it's not like a great system the way that's set up,
Right.
so I know
Yeah,
that.
and we're gonna look through that, a new
Huh?
system.
We'll take Venmo to Heather.
Yeah.
That'll be a time.
I-
Yeah, so that is, we are looking through different systems that would automatically invoice and those kind of
Mhm.
things, so we wouldn't have. Because school pay, even on the back end, has not been great, like they're losing files, just hasn't been a great system.
How do I know that I'm supposed to make a supply fee? Like it's publicized, it's in Parent Square, I get an email.
Yeah, and then at the beginning of the
I
year,
send a
it's
bill to the household,
no,
but I'd spend that 65 cents to get.
Yeah.
Might
Yeah.
be worth
I bet you
sending
get
letters out.
50 of them if you just send a
Right,
bill.
they have an option to just send a check in.
yeah.
Sarah has her hand up. I don't know if she wants to start her PTO update.
Oh,
or-
sorry,
Oh,
Sarah.
yeah.
I'm gonna check our time here.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah. Would you like to?
Like, I need to
Are
go.
I know, sorry, I didn't mean to cut us short.
No, yeah, go
Are we
ahead.
pretty
You're
much wrapped
good.
up on the finance?
Yeah, we're
Okay,
good.
I'm gonna kick it over to you then, Sarah.
Maybe.
Or maybe she didn't raise her hand.
Sarah,
She was high fiving.
do you
us.
hear us? We were gonna go ahead and turn it over to you for a PTO update.
Hey, sorry, guys, it wasn't letting me unmute for a second. I just wanted to chime in on the school supply fee. The PTO would love to help sponsor those students or the families that may not be able to afford the fees. So if you can kind of come up with a creative way, we thought that might be a nice like fundraising opportunity to help support that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's that. But we can do the whole PTO update if you guys are ready for all the fun updates.
Yes.
Okay, well, hello. We've had a lot going on like usual. We had our Winter Wonderland Festival this last Friday. It was really wonderful. They had the chili cook-off and we had all the student vendors. It's a really great time for the students to practice their entrepreneurship, and they were very successful. And then we had a lovely movie night. It was really nice to see all the different groups. So if you made it out, that was great. If not, come on to the next event. We've got a lot going on. This week, we have our community ice skating night at the Ice Factory in Kissimmee. So that is going to be really fun. Anyone is welcome. You can bring your friends. We'll be there from 7 to 10. Tickets are $18 or $20 if you want to get the hot cocoa. So it's really cute. They do snow. If you don't know how to skate, there's these like little seals you can rent, or you can even get like, we have these free buckets where you can kind of like hold onto these buckets and stack up and teach your kids to skate. So it's a really cute evening. We did that last year. It was a lot of fun. And then next week we are doing a spirit night. So one of our families owns a chain of Subways. So he was generous enough to offer a lovely spirit night at 4 locations, all in Central Florida, one right next to high school, the one right next to primary and main campus. So it should be pretty convenient for everyone. We're really excited for that. And then we have a lot going on at IMHS. So we're hosting the staff bruncheon tomorrow with refreshments in partnership with the culinary team, which is wonderful. This Saturday, we're helping with their disco night event. So if you haven't signed up for any supplies, go on. We have a nice sign up list, or if you have a free Saturday night this Saturday, you can join us for chaperoning that event. And then also they're doing a high school fundraiser for gift wrapping. So that will be the following Wednesday. You can drop off your gifts, and then it's a set prices for large, medium, or small gifts. And then you drop them off, and then we will return them wrapped. So take one thing off of your holiday to-do list this year. And all proceeds will go for IMHS committee, so the PTO, and they have been putting on so many wonderful brunches, and we really just want to keep supporting them. So save all your gifts, and that could be really fun. If you can't, if you don't want to drop off your gifts, they're taking donations for wrapping paper and supplies. And then that will bring us to the end of the year. So that's really exciting. We do have, if you haven't had a chance to be on our website, PTO Owls, we have a list of all the teachers and base staff and admins' favorite things up there. So if you go into our like staff page, if you're just like, ooh, yeah, I want to get a gift for them and you don't know what, you can go up there and you can kind of get their favorite things. It's organized by class or what their department is. So that should be pretty easy for the public to find. And then just as we go into next year, just let us know if you guys need any particular support. We do, like you were saying, we have a really involved community, and you know, we just want to make sure that we're helping as much as we can. And that's it.
Sarah, do you have a list of PTO members with their occupation or a job?
We have like a list of our members, email, and sort of kind of like what they do, and then like their availability and interest. It was kind of like, oh, who wants to help us volunteer?
Right.
But we could share that with you. And then we also have a list of donors, past and present, that people who have like either sponsored events or donated things in the past.
Might be helpful as you're doing your search for facility support. So maybe Sarah could provide some support there.
Yeah, we know a couple, like two people who own, sorry, that's my dogs. Two people who own landscaping companies. So they could be helpful with some of the tree work, that type of stuff. So yeah, if you want the list, or if you just have a question, either one, just let me know who you'd like to email that to. Stacey, I can send it to you if you want.
That'd be great. Thank you, Sarah.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. All the good things. Bringing us to close here. Sarah, what day was this Subway Spirit Night? I was going to try to, you know, you said it's next week, so.
It is, it is on Monday, December 18th, and that's from 5 to 8 p.m. And they're generous enough to do 20% of all the sales donated back. So that's really wonderful. And it will be at the one at Ocoee, the one next to high school, the Stony Brook one, and then at Summerport Village. So the 4 locations.
Is it like only
5 to 8?
5 to 8? Thank you.
5 to 8, yeah, 5 to 8 for that.
Okay, good. I know next week will be hectic for all of us, so probably a good opportunity with Spirit Night.
Oh, yeah.
Right, at least it's at so many locations. Just grab it wherever you are.
Stop in, yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Committees. Let's see, committee updates. Anything for you, Marissa?
Sure. So I posted an updated like infographic of how our annual giving is going. So since we kicked it off, we're just under $7,300. And so I think it's going to go out this week in the kind of school newsletter to get some more eyeballs on it. But just looking at the nice thing about Zephy is you can just like pull a lot of data of like the amount of people have donated. So about 62 people have donated. So that's about, I think, like 12% of our school community. I don't actually know the exact number, but I'm guessing it's around 500 families. And so just to kind of like what's been kind of unique is it's been a lot more larger one-time gifts, and I think it's because we're doing it at the end of the year. The Zephy gives you an automatic tax receipt if you do it like a one-time gift, which is good.
Yeah.
So we're trying to just give it a couple more pushes before the end of the year for school breaks for those who want to get that 2023 tax receipt donation.
Yeah.
And for us to meet our stretch goal of $50,000, the key is to get like a $10 a month from basically all of our families for the next going into January for the 10 months until we get back to the next campaign. So that's kind of the messaging that I added in here, you know, that would be ideal average, right? So obviously people have given more, some people give less, but on average, that would be that would help us reach our goal. Yeah, and so we're edging out a little bit more in the IMO goal than the IMHS goal, but they're both progressing. And thank
And the
you for,
recurring donations are set up in the same place.
Yes.
You just
yeah,
choose,
you can just choose one time or monthly.
and then it's monthly is the default then. You can't do like quarterly or any other kind of
Yeah, no,
frequency.
there's
It's just
those two options.
one time or monthly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you pick, is it just one of these two, or is there an option just to pick operations or supporting school?
So there's two ZEPs, one for the IMO campus and one is for the IMHS campus, but there are people that gave to both.
And the 30,000 for IMO is going solely to the books, the nonfiction books.
So I guess this is a good opportunity to clarify, because I had gotten some feedback from the community of hearing the board discussion on, you know, our budget and why are we going after these specific things. And I know Heather sent a message that we coordinated on these specific things because there were items in the budget
Already.
and I don't want to talk out of turn of like if they were reduced in the budget or removed from, but it's to help the overall budget. We just identified them as like tangible things. But I don't know, Heather's probably better, you know more than me to like explain it.
So the reason was we had listed those things in our ESSER funding. And as you may recall, we had some salaries in the ESSER that we really hadn't projected for this year, but we didn't reduce those salaries over the summer. So by picking up these two items, it frees up ESSER money then to overall help with salaries. So we're ultimately helping our budget run, but then we're also meeting the goal of having the library and the culinary program.
Yeah, right. So they were like existing things.
Yeah.
No, I get that,
focused on.
but
Yeah.
I was just saying like the 30,000 for that IMO is all for that one line item.
Yeah, we actually had budgeted in our ESSER budget, it's 50,000. Yeah, and honestly, well, I thought that too, and then Ariel definitely educated me on, that's just a small fraction of what it's gonna take to get a full library up and running. I think she projected, and I don't wanna speak out of turn for her, but the last I heard was like $200,000 that it's gonna take to have a full library. So this is just a basic. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of what I wanted to highlight too, is, you know, dollars offset dollars. So if you hear anyone who's like, I mean, one, if they want to just support the school, I don't know if we've structured it in a way, if they just want to give to operations and say, here's dollars that are, you know, unencumbered, right? Like however you want to use them might be something we want to put out there. I don't know how much it actually come into or not, but if there's anyone who's, you know, saying that, obviously our conversations these last few months have been a lot more pre-COVID, I feel like, than the last several years during COVID, where there's a lot more of the, all right, we need our community to help us. And I'm hearing comments and feedback coming back that I think the community's like, oh, like we want to be there. And so, you know, one, I just want to say as, you know, outgoing treasurer, dollars offset dollars. Like we have things that we need to spend on. So don't not give to this because you're like, I'd rather give to support a teacher's salary. It's like, well, you still do, because then you don't spend the money here when we move that right over. It helps the bottom line. And then
maybe then from that standpoint, if there were 5 things that someone could choose from, if they pick and they want to put dollars towards. I know people always like when they can do the charity of their choice, right? But if we had 5 item line, you know, and they're more operational related or.
I think the challenge is, can you ensure that those dollars are going to that?
that's
If you don't raise
the
enough
tricky
for
part of it.
all 5 of the line items, like, what do you do? Like,
Because you have the one person,
I get what you're saying, but
you have one person who's like, I don't want to give dollars if it's not going for books, right? And you've got another person who's like, well, I'm just giving because I just want to help the school and spend it wherever you want. And then you're like, well, if you get 15,000 for the books, is that still going to the books? You're like, we didn't make it. You know, like a shade sale is a good example. You don't hit that dollar amount to buy the shade sale. Are you still getting it? Is the school putting it up? Or so always one of those challenges of fundraising.
Well, then maybe it's a good point that it is more like it doesn't have to be a fully funded thing, but like, hey, these are the 3 operational items that are a priority for us right now, and the dollars help offset, free up you know, for salaries and to keep the level of education that we want in the classrooms.
And I want to, you know, I know I didn't mention it during the finance, but unfortunately we did let some staff members go. And, you know, I do think I won't share those specifics of who they are. I did meet with both campuses and talk to the staff but, you know, letting the community know that we do need their support right now. And if we don't pick up some of this revenue to offset ESSER next year is an $800,000 difference. And, you know, we can make up a couple $100,000 in just switching some of our programming and those kind of things. But again, those are things that's real life. So letting the community know that when we reduce people, that you know, we're trying our best to keep the structure of the Montessori and what we want to hold true to, but we also have to be realistic to operate and keep that. So if they like how the school is running, you know, then definitely their financial support is needed for that.
And the kids know. I mean,
Yes.
my daughter knew that her TA was getting laid off.
Yeah. So those are the things I think, you know, we unfortunately have had to lay off, and especially right before Christmas or holidays, but you know, it's hard to do. So their last day will be next Friday.
It's awful.
Yeah. It was, I've never had to do that in 21 years. And I don't want to do that again.
So it's like from like a bigger picture perspective of, because I was watching a webinar on the federal funding, what's it called again? ESSER, the ESSER cliff. And then the guy presenting he specializes in helping charter schools do fundraising. And it was around, and I think Building Hope is like hosting him.
Yeah, I watched, yes.
Okay, so he was explaining like charter schools, you know, need fundraising, and it's anywhere from 5% to 25% of their budget. And I just don't know if we know, like you said, going into next year, like, do we need to be more disciplined and proactive about, hey, we've got to get this percentage from fundraising, and like how build out that plan.
Right.
So, I mean, I just throw out
From
there
a
as something we need to
budgeting
think about.
perspective, what's really hard on it is you can't, I don't know, maybe you can maybe like, you can rely on me for $400,000 next year, then you can put it into the budget. If you've got something where you consistently delivered, say 400,000, give or take $40,000, okay, I can budget that in and I can work with it. Where we're coming from just getting up and running, right? And your school community also can get used to it. You get some other community donors who get used to leaning into it. So you get that consistency going. Obviously we don't have it now, you know, that's one of those challenges, but that is part of this communication that, you know, starts with this conversation here in this meeting, but it needs to be increased up as they said. There is this ESSER cliff. There's this huge shift back to relying on our local communities and our families and wherever those dollars are coming from. They're not coming from the federal government anymore. And, you know, our programs will be impacted with the change in what the dollars are. This year, we see a little bit of it by having to let go of some staff that we didn't want to. We definitely would have preferred to keep them. But next year, it'll be substantially worse. And then you end up with definitely having your programs impacted because you're like, well, I
mean, if you make it real,
make it functional.
I think you get the input. I mean,
right.
When we had a conversation in the, you know, earlier this year about a potential middle school lottery, right? I mean, we saw a tremendous outpouring of support for people that were willing to go raise $1 million+ right? And I'm like,
they would,
And so I don't know that that's ever realistic, but like, you know, there was definitely a swell of support to do that. So, you know, if you can make it real and, you know, because it is real. I mean, it's not about,
it is.
It is just real. And a lot of times we don't do the best job.
You
of
don't get to
making
keep
it
all the
real.
staff members you want to if you don't have funding from somewhere. Now and you have to see the funding start this year, right? Like you can't put it into the budget that you'll have it next year if you don't have, if it's just pie in the sky dreaming, then you put yourself right back here and be like, well, Heather, 2 years in a row, you get to cut people at Christmas time, and you know, it's not functional. So you have to have a realistic budget.
And sorry, the big pie of where the charter schools get their money is competitive grants. So I know we've got like a volunteer group trying to start up grants, but like it's just things to start to think about. Like if we need to like have this consistent source, then we need to kind of have like a bigger
We
solid
had,
plan around it.
we had a grant person on staff.
Amy?
Amy,
Yeah.
you know, years before COVID. And so she was doing that
She's-
part time for us,
Yeah.
even like on
She's a
contract basis.
volunteer
So
on-
yeah, I
she's
mean, like,
helping there. Yeah,
it did, the point was it takes
Yeah.
like some dedication,
Yeah.
capacity to go do that, yeah.
And, you know, that's one of the reasons why we're gonna go ahead and send out the free and reduced form.
Yep.
Is a lot of grants
Mhm.
are based off of the need based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think parents are aware of, I know, you know, we probably have staff members that would qualify. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I want to make sure that just try it.
They still pack their lunch. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you don't sign up, right? Like
Yeah.
just because you're packing your lunch.
It doesn't
don't-
matter.
you don't
It's
fill
still
out the form.
funding that
Yes.
kids could, you
Yeah.
know, the school could
Right.
receive
Yes.
if we would hit that
You're
threshold.
saying, don't do it for you, do it for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it would ultimately still help your kid in the long run, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
you could get some fees waived for testing and those kind of things,
Mhm.
but, yeah, so I think for the grant writing purposes, definitely
Yeah.
needs based.
Yeah, some of them are
those.
probably need a minimum to even qualify
Yeah.
for some of those grants,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was, if I remember correctly, was Building Hope helping us build out that 5-year projection as well, with that on her list?
Yeah, so yes, she's gonna sit down and show me some forms that she used and, last week we spent time, going through line by line. She actually came and presented at our charter school principal meeting, but so she came up, Thursday late afternoon and Lily, her and I stayed, you know, pretty late to sit down and go line by line to recode everything. Cause a lot of things like
Right.
was just dumped in. So, you know, her advice is let's get this budget straight. Let's make sure your budget to actual, and then also that I can report each month the days cash on hand and those kind of things, have all of that straight. And then in January to actually start budgeting for next year and doing exactly that. What's our 5-year plan? What big items do we need to have replaced? Those sorts of things. So I'm gonna go, like, I've already been working on next year's budget template, and playing around with some numbers and those kind of things. So that way, when we roll into that into January and February and having those discussions, we're not starting all over.
Yeah, because I think it ties in good with what, like, we know, obviously, we go in without those dollars, that what that 5-year projection looks like for every year, what the shortfall is every year, we got to back into that.
Yes.
So, with, you know, done a fantastic job with kind of laying the groundwork with how we could get there on the fundraising grant side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marissa has done a
And then-
phenomenal job.
And then, you know, I just think, you know, I've heard a lot of good things on the revenue sources, and I think that really would be a focal point of what are all the revenue sources, what's the action plan there, and to try and back into it.
Absolutely.
So,
I have a couple other things to just update. So the grant writing committee, we kind of exchanged some emails that, so we're like, so grants kind of follow, I'm just like learning this world of grants, right? They kind of follow what societal trends are, right? So there's a lot of grants for libraries now, and there's a lot of grants for STEM, and there's a lot of grants for mental health. There's not really grants for a van, you know?
Yeah.
So that was our original mission, was to try and get funding for van. He brought up like for the high school.
Right.
So we had exchanged emails of like, maybe we should change our approach, right?
Yeah.
That we should go after things that there are grants out there and we could qualify for. So Heather wrote me back some new, kind of really opened the aperture there of like things that we could kind of expand our search for grants in STEM and mental health, and I forgot the third area, but there was a third area. As
Can you
well.
horse trade like you're saying too, or if you can get a grant for something that we've already got budgeted, then pull some
Absolutely.
budget out to fund something that we can't get. a grant
Great thing about dollars, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna pay for that. I got it. Excellent. I'll go pay for this.
Yeah.
we're all green
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
They transfer really easily.
He's speaking my Kentucky language
That's
now.
right.
She's lived that term. She is frustrating.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Florida tried to say they're the horse capital, but they're not.
You winter here.
Yeah.
No, we're still alive.
The last idea, I don't know if this will land well or not, but like another thing I learned in that webinar was from businesses actually do not like donate a ton of just cash to schools, it's more like in kind or like work partnerships or whatever. But the lady did mention, hey, go after those businesses you have done a lot of work with. So they already know you, they feel like it's like reciprocal. And then also like developers in the community that benefit from our school. And so there is a developer right down the street that I've identified who they are. And so these are just where areas that I think we have the opportunity to share with them, hey, we are doing annual giving. Consider us.
Well, maybe we could provide some pamphlets or things for our primary program as they are trying to, sell out those condos and townhomes and things in there so that,
Right here.
like really giving them the opportunity that's hey, you've got within walking distance, once the sidewalks are finished, the school there. So that would be the big pitch to them, I think, for that piece. See what they could do. And I don't think we're below putting up some signs either, right? Like for sponsorships on certain things. When we think about our athletics teams, we have big fences around some of those places around there. So as our athletic, Brandon's on here or not, but thinking about like boosters, right? And thinking about those donations of materials and supplies for athletic programs, we can put up a sign or on a fence for a company as they are sponsoring for us or something like that. So just something for us to consider too.
Yeah, I've talked to Brendan about that already to say, hey, these are things, because if you get anybody else's gym.
Yeah, they're up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that inspiration.
Excellent job.
New ideas. Yeah, it's great.
I think we'll push that sign up next year with the monthly, right? Like that new school year, right? Next year is really going to be that good time to get, let's say, all right, you gave your donation last year or even in the spring sometime, let's go ahead and get on that monthly rotation. So,
Yeah, I think we need to shift over to that month. I
Yeah,
think
that's the
people are
push.
probably thinking this is the I'm
versus
hitting it on
like,
Giving Tuesday and then I'm
yeah,
done.
I don't
just
need to
think
give
Giving
$100
Tuesday
or
is
$50. I'll just do every 10 bucks a month or
Giving
like you
Tuesday is
said.
a bad time. I
Yeah.
just think it's a horrible time because you've got everybody who just spent a bunch of money on Black Friday and then a bunch of money on Cyber Monday, and Tuesday comes like, man, I don't have any money left to
Yeah.
my giving.
You
on.
need really big
You
dollars.
hit them in
and then
like
you're
February
well, I
after the
just bought my
holidays.
Ferrari and I feel guilty.
Yeah.
So I
That's really
give
what it
5,000 to
comes
the
after the
school,
holidays.
but
Yeah.
Do you have any of those friends?
I don't have any of those friends sadly, so I did not buy a Ferrari
Okay.
Friday.
But I mean, I love how you energize with the campaign around,
Yes.
spring
No.
into action or
Yeah,
something.
that's
I don't
right.
know, like we come back.
I like it, and
we
I'll
settle
tell
after
you
the
from
holidays,
a
have another little
if
campaign.
you do have some of that reoccurring giving, right? Planned giving side of it, hey, look into reoccurring contributions. So like your spring into action is having some level of consistency going into budget, then you can actually put that in, right? That really helps the operations side of it. If we're consistently getting even just $3,000-4,000 a month, it adds up in the course of a year, right?
And giving
Yeah.
people a date is good. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to drive towards the end of the month,
Yeah.
end of March, we're
Yeah.
going to, we're going to, and then, we go back into car line and,
Yeah.
hand something else out at the end of the month or something.
They can get it a papaya reusable paper towel product if they sign up for, when spring cleaning comes, or
Yeah.
something,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like one of those
Yeah.
like
Oh, no.
paper towels that's earth
Yeah.
conscious,
Done
right?
that. I mean,
Yeah.
we've given
Yeah, like just you
stuff like the
sign up for,
mugs.
a minimum of $15 a
mugs.
month or something, or $10 a
Yeah.
month, and you get this nice little thing as a result. So,
So in that, yeah,
Ornaments.
car lane for
oh yeah,
$75 a month.
yeah.
Oh, Vinny. Yeah, good girl.
Yeah.
VIP
Pull them out of the lane, get them
car
up to the front for the drop off.
Yeah.
That's a great
For
idea.
$100 a month, someone will pay that.
There's people that come to the car line at like noon, so I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
they clearly have some time
We
and.
can charge fitness
right
rates.
back.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Yeah,
gotta
they don't have the line works, but you.
I'm gonna do a pay by park.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people that desire getting into the front of that line, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I know.
But I think if you come back.
We'll do a,
If you come
we'll
back.
do a
and push
nice
it
knock,
again,
a soft knock if you're taking a nap, we
Yeah.
won't do a.
Constant praise or fun.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think you get any last minute one-timers before the end of the year and then,
Mhm.
yeah, then it's on to the recurring in the
Yeah, I
spring.
think that's
Yeah.
good focus shift.
Yeah. Okay, so, board candidates and succession planning,
Mhm.
again, as our goals. So yay, we're doing some
Mhm.
good work around that. We had some transition tonight. So just to confirm the plans that we're looking at, we had held last time that we would do board candidate interviews on the 16th of January. So I've put that onto everybody's calendars, which means we will then meet for our board meeting on the 23rd. So in theory, that would allow us to, if we so choose, to vote that night on a candidate if we would like to do that.
How many are we gonna interview?
And so that was the question is, I need to get with them. We have 3 potential candidates right
Three.
now.
Mhm.
We have Shama, we have Scott, and we have Kate.
Mhm.
So, and I had been sprinkling them around to meet with a few of you individually.
Thursday.
Hmm?
I mean, with Scott on Thursday.
Oh, good, perfect, okay, great.
Did you meet him?
I already met with him. I met with him and Kate, and then I'm meeting with Shama next week.
And then
I need a
Shama had come to your meetings. so-
Philip's rolling off. You're gonna be moving off at some point so we may be in a position to add 2 people
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
at least.
I think we should add at least 2 people.
at least.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because that would replace the 2 people that anticipate leaving. I had stated at last meeting that may have been before you rolled off, but I think in February I'd like to roll out of secretary.
Mhm.
So we can vote someone else in secretary and then thinking June is when I would probably want to roll off completely. So.
So that 16th date, we have the interviews. Do we want to do that like a mini working session that day? Is that too early for that enrollment talk? That might be too early. I don't know. You tell me.
Oh, yes.
If we're
and so then I have
here
a note here, we
already
need to
at-
add a working session.
If we're here already
16th.
on the
I think we-
16th,
We can do it.
then we'll do the interviews and then we'll order some dinner and then we'll just do that working session afterwards.
Mhm. Yeah, we could do I guess the question would be how early people could meet to
For
begin
interviews. Yeah.
for interviews, because then what I would
Was
do
An
is
hour and a half, 30
reach
minutes
out to the
each.
candidates and try to slot
Schedule.
them in
Mhm.
ideally,
Yeah,
maybe if possible, right? One after the other or close
Mhm.
thereafter.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
I could comment or
yeah, I can, on a Tuesday, I can be here.
Yeah, so this
little
is
bit earlier.
noting it is the day after
You have it starting at
the
5:30, so
holiday.
we
What did
could-
I hold it as? 5:30?
yeah, 5:30.
Yeah.
So if it's, we're done by 7 with the interview process, then we could do a 7 to 9 working session,
Yeah,
you know.
get dinner, yeah. Mhm.
Order in some Taco Bell for Kevin.
Not Ellie Lou's anymore. It's
What?
closing.
It
What?
is?
What?
The one in Ocoee?
McGuire, yeah.
What about the one in
Oh,
Claremont? I wonder if that
no.
one's
Why are
still
they
up.
closing?
They said it was because of their rent.
Oh,
God, the
Yeah.
rent again.
Yeah, Doug and I, like,
Ah,
near our
it's such a-
house, that's our Sunday ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, oh.
Yeah.
that's
I
terrible.
love those.
Yeah,
corn
I
dogs.
Yeah.
But, well, we had already talked about them.
And the beans, the settlers
You ever
beans.
been to
Oh,
River?
Aren't they closed
Gotta
ones?
get
Good
there.
too.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good too, though, yeah.
They won't work for Sunday ritual.
Yeah.
On Four Rivers.
Mhm.
For another day.
Yeah.
So I would suggest we have 3 viable candidates. We should interview all 3, especially if we're
Yes.
looking to fill 2 positions at least.
Yeah.
So any concerns with that? Go ahead and reach out and schedule them.
I think so.
Maybe. That sounds like a good plan. So add the working session that night. I think that's it. Anything else with that? Like I said, I'll just reach out and coordinate that everybody can be.
We'll do a transition. By the way, congratulations on being voted into treasurer
Yeah.
tonight.
Congrats! Now that we're here.
I think with finishing up some stuff with the DAC bond, the transition should probably happen in January. So maybe Stephen could switch that over when he's back on the 8th. If that's the first day you guys are back, right? Then that makes the most sense to the holidays won't really have anything up. So that way you could wrap up the DAC stuff, and of course AJ is welcome to, I sent him the invite, be there, be on that. And then January, start with the new treasurer role. Does that sound good?
Yes. And I'll get our, coordinate our finance meeting and probably go, need to spend some time with Philip as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you've done.
Appreciate you taking over.
Yeah.
All right, that works.
Okay.
I think that's all we're doing.
Any other updates? Okay.
No.
Awesome.
We hit everything we could possibly hit. So
I think we have,
Look at
yes,
so many
I
notes
think
over
we are
here.
good. Yeah, so we're gonna adjourn at 8:38.
have a wonderful
So
holiday, everybody.
have a great holiday.
Enjoy the break.
For sure.
Holidays.
Happy holidays.
Take care. See you all. Bye.
Bye.